Hey, hi, howdy. We are back with our third mock draft of the 2026 NBA draft cycle. This is the first following the NBA's trade deadline, which shook some things up from the lottery all the way to the end of the first round. I think this class has continued to be the best I've ever scouted in about 4 seasons doing this seriously, offering 3 tier 1 players, more joining tier 2 every day, and depth throughout the lottery and beyond. I've ran a tankathon spin, per usual, for the order, with the Wizards and Bulls coming out as the biggest winners. As always, I appreciate you watching. Go ahead and subscribe to stay up to date on the 26 class. We have scouting reports coming out every few days. The Washington Wizards are the big winners of the mock, jumping 4 spots to nab BYU wing AJ Dybantsa and likely cementing their young core for the foreseeable future. The Wizards made interesting deadline moves, nabbing Trae Young and Anthony Davis, neither of which really affect their decision making here. Despite some great young pieces in Alex Sarr, Keyshawn George, and Trey Johnson, they'll likely prioritize who they think is the best available player one final time. I genuinely think all of the tier 1 guys have a great case for hearing their name called first overall, but Dybantsa may very well have the most clear cut. He's 6'9" with incredible fluidity and athleticism for his size, already had good face value numbers, and has just been eviscerating the Big 12 lately at nearly 30 points, 6 rebounds, and 5 assists per game on 51, 43, 75 splits. He has an obvious path to stardom and is deciphering college basketball in real time. Dybantsa certainly isn't a lock to go number 1, but the scenarios where he does certainly seem to be increasing as of late February. The Sacramento Kings, presently the worst team in the league at 12-46, pick second, nabbing Kansas guard Darryn Peterson. There's some obvious question marks hanging around Darryn Peterson right now, ones I won't get into without all the information. NBA teams are going to do their due diligence in a situation like this, and I think anyone totally writing him off without those details could look pretty silly if and when he goes on to have a long, successful NBA career. With that being said, we've still got plenty of good Darryn Peterson moments on court in the form of 20 points per game on blistering 3-point shooting, and I'll reiterate here as I have in the past, I don't think we're seeing Peterson's full capabilities as an on-ball player. This feels like a no-brainer pick for the Kings, who are obviously choosing the best and highest upside player available, given they're effectively moving into a new era. Peterson could be a heck of a building block to kick off a rebuild with. The Brooklyn Nets stand pat at third, grabbing the potential National Player of the Year in Duke forward Cameron Boozer. Where Dybantsa and Peterson have had their highs, Boozer has remained among the more consistent players in the country, which is pretty absurd given he's averaging 23, 10, and 4 on great splits. As I stated earlier, I really do see a number 1 case for all 3 of these guys, and that extends to Boozer, whose game against Michigan's NBA-level frontcourt was especially eye-opening in terms of just how versatile he is, despite lesser athletic tools than the other 2. Boozer's a quick processing winner who just takes analytical models and punts them out of orbit, and it would not shock me in the slightest if a few teams used algorithms that said, hey, go draft that guy. I think Brooklyn is an especially perfect fit for Boozer given they'll want to win games as early as next season, not owning all of their draft capital for the future. They valued big playmakers, and Boozer is the cream of the crop as far as that goes. The guard-laden Bulls are the highest jumping team in the mock, leaping 5 spots to nab the 4th overall pick and getting Caleb Wilson out of North Carolina. Wilson fractured his hand in the first half of UNC's game against Miami and has since missed 3 games, though he's slated to return soon per head coach Hubert Davis. Regardless, this isn't set to affect his stock for many, myself included, no matter how he performs following his return, given his 20-9 and 3 stocks per game is good for 4th in this class. Wilson still hasn't cracked my or many others' top 3 due to handling and shooting limitations, though his touch in the mid-range, elite production overall, and blatant winning impact still speak volumes to how good he is as a prospect and how much growing he can still do. His fit with Chicago is a match made in heaven, at least on their end, as they've coveted positional size and versatility for a few seasons now. Wilson is the blue chip version of the exact prospect they've hunted for, and he'd make a lengthy 3-headed monster alongside Josh Giddey and Modest Buzelis. The Pacers land outside the top 4, granting the LA Clippers the 5th pick in the draft following one of the more gutsy trades that I have ever seen, an essential coin flip to lose their pick at the moment. The Clippers finally seem ready to move on to a new era, having shipped off James Harden and Ivica Zubac in favor of Darius Garland, Benedict Mathurin, and draft picks. They shouldn't take anyone on their roster into account picking this high, needing to take the best available prospect and run. I've gone with Houston's Kingston Flemings, who has the case at being the best all-around guard in the class, class with jumper-ridden scoring, elite passing, and stingy defense, despite his slight frame. Even more, he's doing all of this as a true freshman in Kelvin Sampson's Houston system, an extremely tough thing to do, much less on a top 5 team in the country. The speedster would be a great starting point for LA at guard, even accounting for the addition of Darius Garland, who could either play in tandem with Flemings or be flipped down the line for assets. New Orleans is now 4-6 in their last 10 games, and is one of the sole teams listed here in this area with no real incentive to lose games, pointing to them potentially passing up the likes of Washington, Utah, Dallas, and more in the coming months. For now, they net Atlanta the 6th pick, and Louisville guard Michael Brown Jr. Few players in this entire class have seen the game-to-game volatility that Brown has, seeing down splits to start the season, but drastically raising those with the white-hot 3-game stretch lately. His profile is going to be really intriguing for NBA teams as a nice-sized guard with elite shoot-dribble-pass upside at star-level volume. I've been pretty consistent that I think teams are going to value Brown regardless of where his splits land, and they're trending up. Atlanta has a long-term point guard vacancy, and a player that profiles as a potentially bigger Trae Young could be a plug-in from a core perspective alongside Jalen Johnson and more. The Utah Jazz fall to number 7, landing just outside what I think could be a pretty set top 6 prospect-wise. If that is not the case, it is likely that Illinois' Keaton Wagler has made his way into Tier 2 via his transcendent lone season of college basketball. As a 4-star, Wagler wasn't on radars coming into the season, but is firmly on them now, averaging a scorching 18 points on a mix of smooth triples and pick-and-roll plays centered around counters opposed to athleticism. Wagler could stand to show some more separation while driving, as well as some better defensive chops, but NBA squads will certainly be keen to add an elite shooting wing with guard-like ability to handle and pass the ball. The Jazz likely have their sights set higher, but Wagler would be a fun add to a core ready to press the go button, and could play off of Keontae George or command the rock next to him given both of their scoring versatility. The Mavericks ripped off 10 straight losses, obviously prioritizing the draft while they still have their agency here. It seems at this point they're bound to land a top 10 pick, gambling on one of the more polarizing players in the class here with Arkansas guard Darius Acuff Jr. Acuff has his doubters via his size, shot profile, and defensive floor and ceiling, which I can understand. He also has his believers given completely unshakable poise and nearly unprecedented true freshman guard play in the SEC, which I can also understand. I obviously land in the middle. While I don't believe Acuff to be the top guard prospect in the class via some of those limitations, I also think this level of feel, off the dribble juice, and a 3-to-1 assist to turnover ratio is pretty transferable. Any teams needing guard help and missing out on Flemings and Brown would certainly feel fine swinging on Acuff, and Dallas fits into that with a need for star power alongside Cooper Flagg. A lead guard prospect could also certainly do worse than learning the tricks of the trade under Kyrie Irving for a few seasons. The Grizzlies are now down 2 of their big 3 following the Desmond Bane and Jaren Jackson Jr. trades, and it's only a matter of time until Ja Morant makes his exit, signaling a full-on rebuild for Memphis. With that line of thinking, I think an upside play makes plenty of sense for Memphis, and one of the best available is Tennessee forward Nate Ament. Ament's seen a roller coaster season, coming in as the consensus number 4 prospect on most mocks and boards, and seeing a fine start to the season. From there, his production would taper off, seeing a pretty rough stretch percentage-wise. Now he's trending back up at 22 points per game on 44% shooting in his last 12, all really tough SEC bouts. It hasn't been a sparkling season overall, but I think NBA teams will still be especially interested in him considering his size at 6'10", smooth jump shooting, and especially the free throw rate and conversion. The Grizzlies could roll him out in a role player capacity while simultaneously adding to his game in the long term. Milwaukee's won 6 games in 10 tries, seemingly not caring about draft odds as they develop what I believe to be a pretty barren core around Giannis Antetokounmpo. Regardless of how that storyline plays out, I think they should bet on the best available player, and that includes Alabama guard LeBaron Philon. Philon's been extremely steady for the Tide through his sophomore season, with a great blend of rim pressure, shooting, and passing. His handling is among the best in the class, and he's likely set to offer all of these same things for an NBA team as early as next season. I'm as big a Ryan Rollins fan as the next guy, but I don't think they necessarily need to be basing their future decisions around him, and Philon should work solidly as a short-term rotational bet or even core piece. The Hornets, led by LaMelo Ball, Brandon Miller, and Con Knipple, are streaking toward a potential play-in berth in the East, but have some work to do before cementing themselves in one of those spots. Here they grab Kentucky forward Jaden Quaintance, snagging defense of any sort given their offense feels plenty built out at this point. Quaintance has played in just 4 games for Kentucky, failing to look much like his productive Arizona State self due to the knee injury. He's now been out for a month and isn't close to a return per head coach Mark Pope. Despite that, Quaintance still has immense upside as a defensive-minded big with the potential to add to his offensive game. He averaged 3.7 stocks per game as a 17-year-old with the Sun Devils, and has seldomly shown some intriguing range on offense. The Hornets can stand to bolster their front court further, and an upside play on the defensive end of the court feels like the natural progression here. A newly crowned contender in the Spurs pick at number 12 via the Hawks, taking a chance on Michigan forward Yaxel Lindeborg. Lindeborg is among the more versatile players in the country, anchoring a top-ranked Wolverines team with scoring on and off the ball, defense, be it stopping or rim protection, and connective playmaking with great feel for the game. The only real downside with Lindeborg, aside from three-point shooting, is his age at 24 before his rookie season starts, though teams looking to win next season won't really be deterred given his all-around game. Aside from that below-average three-point shooting, Lindeborg fits the San Antonio system like a glove, as a player that can score, defend, pass, handle, and more alongside Victor Wembanyama in the front court or even on the wing. The Spurs shouldn't shy away due to his old age, especially given how much he could help them with contention on his rookie deal. The Trailblazers feel like they're on the verge of something, but still have a pretty mismatched core of all-star Denny Avdia, veterans in Drew Holiday, Jeremy Grant, and Damian Lillard, as well as a young group of Shaedon Sharpe, Donovan Clingan, Scoot Henderson, and Young Hansen. They need three-point shooting, but their options are not great here, and I don't hate a shot on best available, which for me would be Arizona's Braden Burries. Burries saw a pretty rough start to the season, but a pretty incredible mid-season stretch with the then number 1 ranked Wildcats that showcased his handling, shot making, passing, and defense. He just has a great blend of winning skills and a fine 6'4" frame for a combo guard, and one can really start believing in things like the three-point shot and secondary playmaking when watching how smooth he is on tape. The Trailblazers are chock full of all types of guards, but Burries feels malleable, and being able to throw out a moldable contributor with upside in a variety of lineups could be a final bet in the lottery as they push to win games for the foreseeable future. Best in the West, Oklahoma City picks via the Clippers to round out the lottery, taking Texas wing Dalen Swain. Swain came into the season as an intriguing transfer, and it seems he'll be leaving as one of the 2026 draft's top risers. He's a lengthy 6'8" wing with an intriguing blend of athleticism, defense, and handling ability, and he's used every bit of it in his breakout season with the Longhorns. Through 14 games in the SEC, Swain is averaging 20.5 points on 58% shooting, tacking on nearly 8 rebounds, 3 assists, and 2 steals per game, even managing to shoot 38% from 3, really his only true knock at this point. The Thunder have long valued length and positional versatility, and they don't have an athletic wing of his size currently rostered. Their history of developing three-point shooters especially helps their case for drafting Swain. Golden State sits just outside the lottery at number 15, desperately needing an infusion of talent via the 26th draft. Here they chance just that in taking Arizona's Koa Pete. At 6'8" with a pro-ready frame, Pete has obvious talent and has been a major cog in the winning machine that has been Arizona. He's averaging just under 14 points, 5.4 rebounds, and 2.5 assists per game. Solid production on one of the best teams in the country. Pete has size, touch, and feel, albeit with a few worries about how he'll translate to the NBA without consistent three-point shooting. He shot 18 threes through 25 games, hitting on just 6 of those. Regardless, it's been a few years since the Warriors got a blue chip prospect, and Pete feels like a solid front court gamble both in the short and long term. The Grizzlies pick again at number 16, this time via the Orlando Magic, and in still needing upside, they grab Baylor wing Tunde Yesufu. Yesufu is among the more interesting prospects in this entire draft. In any other year, we're likely talking about a physically pro-ready true freshman wing, averaging 18 points and 2 steals, as a bona fide top 10 pick. Instead, Yesufu has been a little bit polarizing due to his general translatability and up and down defense. Even still, Yesufu is built like a Mack truck, the second leading scorer on a Big 12 team at 48% shooting overall, and has some upside as a physical two-way player on the wing. While refining Yesufu will take some work, Memphis is a solid developmental landing spot, and there's certainly worse gambles for the Grizz 16th overall. Florida's Thomas Houck has continued to pour it on in a breakout season for the Gators, earning himself a spot in Miami here with the 17th pick. Hauck was a pivotal, gluey piece for Florida in a championship season last year, and is now leading the team in scoring at 17 points per game, mostly using the same diet of off-ball work. He doesn't have any standout, elite fallback skills, but has a knack for making things happen with complementary scoring, good defense across a few different positions, rebounding, passing, and more. He's an easy rotational bet with feel for the game, and the potential for more if the three-point shot continues an upward trend. With the Heat likely being a free agent landing spot, they can continue to use draft picks to backfill rotation spots, and Hauck's plug and play as far as that goes. The Thunder used their final first-round pick here at number 18, grabbing Iowa point guard Bennett Sturtz. Sturtz is ultra unique, possessing a skill set based around junk pitcher pick and roll play where he'll keep you on your toes with pace, shot making, and precision passing and playmaking. He's turning up in Big Ten play, now scoring over 20 points per game on high volume 3-point shooting. The Thunder have a plethora of guards already rostered, and even accounting for a roster reshuffle, they don't have massive need of an on-ball guard, but Oklahoma City is also in the business of drafting really good basketball players and then figuring it out later, and Sturtz fits right into that philosophy with some of the best feel for the game in the class. The Hornets have already grabbed Kentucky big man Jaden Quaintance, and again bolstered their front court rotation by getting Washington's Hannes Steinbach here at number 19. Steinbach's been a major producer as far as true freshman bigs go, scoring nearly 18 points and bringing down just under 11 rebounds per game, while adding 1 steal and block apiece. He has uniquely incredible hands for a big, able to impact on the inside with touchy layups, contests, and most importantly, offensive rebounding. There's flashes of a more modern skill set too in his 3-point shooting. Steinbach fits naturally into the Hornets scheme from an offensive perspective, aiming to create a high-octane 5-out system down the line. Cameron Carr is finally off the board to the Raptors, who get an infusion of athleticism and 3-point shooting in the Baylor wing. Carr feels tailor-made from a tools perspective to fit into the Raptors' core. They've seen several seasons worth of gambling on lengthy forwards, and here look to a high-flying wing, but is now one of the top players in the Big 12 with a mix of dunks and threes. Carr's NBA case will be built around just that, hitting triples and making highlight-level athletic plays via dunks and blocks. The Raptors could use both of these things as a bottom 5 shooting squad with middling rim protection. The Detroit Pistons currently have the least losses in the association, but made one of the sneakier deadline moves that helped them to grab a first-round swap with the Timberwolves, and it lets them jump 9 spots here. In this range, they have a few better options, one of which is Houston big Chris Senac Jr., presently one of the riskier upside plays in this class. Senac joined Houston as a 5-star, but hasn't been able to really find his stride with the Cougars, showing off an essential wing scoring profile at 6'11", but only offering rebounding as a legitimate big skill. It'll likely take time and patience, but the vision of a stretch hybrid big with mobility and defensive acumen lies with Senac. Detroit doesn't currently have any bigs capable of spacing the floor at a high level, and the fully realized version of Senac would offer the East's best team some dynamism on offense. The Philadelphia 76ers have now traded into the 26 NBA draft, interestingly sending out former number 16 pick Jared McCain to Oklahoma City, where he's off to a pretty hot start. Regardless, this could potentially recoup similar value for the Sixers at a good range in a deep draft. Here they get New Zealand Breakers wing Kareem Lopez. Lopez has seen improvement across the board with the Breakers, with the selling point being a 6'9" handling wing that should be able to impact the in-between areas immediately. He's especially hard to place in this first round, with a ceiling in the lottery and a floor near the back end, given we just don't know how GMs are valuing this class as a whole. Between a few different timelines, Philadelphia has need of a player in the middle of their roster who can do a little bit of everything, and Lopez fits the bill. The blueprint for building around Luka Doncic is simple: 3-point shooting and defense. The Lakers pick here at number 23 aims to solve the former in UConn wing Braylon Mullins. At 6'6", Mullins is averaging double-digit scoring for the Huskies while shooting 39% from 3 on over 6 attempts per game. There's potentially more than meets the eye with Mullins, but his ever-versatile skill set from beyond the arc is sure to be his selling point. He can spot up, come off screen, shoot from the parking lot, and more. His high basketball IQ and shooting versatility alongside Doncic would especially make him a potent weapon and should open up his interior scoring and playmaking. Mullins' draft package is also wrapped up in a high-field bow, which could offer more long-term upside. One of the top players in college basketball right now, Texas Tech guard Christian Anderson is an exceptionally hard player to place in the 2026 draft's first round. He's slight, though not massively undersized at 6'3", and has an easy pitch to NBA teams in scoring 19 points per game and passing at 7.7 assists per game. Even more, the scoring is largely carried by a mind-bending 8 3-pointers attempted per game, which he's hit at a blistering 44% rate. There is a fine chance that Anderson goes much higher than this, defensive and finishing concerns accounted for. However, Denver is a match made in heaven for Anderson, with the template for a shot and playmaking guard already being set with Jamal Murray. The best playmaker in the world in Nikola Jokic could almost certainly maximize Anderson, and this would give the Nuggets a cost-controlled option for the next half-decade. The Knicks pick at number 25, grabbing the first of Michigan Titans in Marez Johnson Jr., one of the best defensive players in the country. At 6'9", Johnson saw a good first season with Illinois and has upgraded to an elite second season with the Wolverines. He's averaging 13.5 points, 7.3 rebounds, and 1.2 blocks per game, notably doing so with some producers in Lindeborg and Adai Mara alongside him. Johnson's pick and roll coverage is among the best in the country, and there's little doubt his physical defense, interior play finishing, and prolific rebounding are all set to translate to the NBA level. The Knicks face long-term questions about their front court, and having grabbed guard help at the deadline, a bet on a defensive-minded big is an easy one to take, especially given Jalen Brunson's limitations. After grabbing a lead guard in the lottery, the Hawks capped their draft by taking the next Michigan center, Adai Mara, at number 26. Mara is one of the more unique players in this class, standing at 7'3" with traditional positives such as interior scoring, shot blocking, and rebounding, in tandem with innate feel for the game that shows up in non-dunk finishing and his passing. There's plenty of refining needed for Mara to reach his potential, mostly to do with strength and conditioning, but his ceiling is as high as anyone's given his size. The Hawks recently shipped off 7'3" center Kristaps Porzingis, and while they're certainly not a one-to-one comp, recouing that size wouldn't be a bad play with a late first. Iowa State forward Joshua Jefferson goes off the board at number 27, snagged by the Boston Celtics. Boston was thought of to be a team that could be picking in the lottery this season, grabbing upside before making another run at it next season. Instead, they have the 4th best record in the league and could easily make a run through the East, not even accounting for a return from superstar Jason Tatum. To that end, they grab a player here in Jefferson who should be a bona fide rotation player from the get-go, offering a 6'9" wing who can score off the ball, defend across multiple positions, and has some of the best passing feel in the class for a player at his size. Jefferson would be a versatile front court play in the Celtics' current core, able to function as a hub and spray out to Boston's elite shooters. The new-look Cavaliers select at number 28, grabbing some big man insurance in Patrick Ngumba II in case of a roster reshuffle in the coming offseason. The Cavs have looked much improved since the Harden trade, but that doesn't detract from the fact that they may look to a future with Evan Mobley primarily at the 5. Should that be the case, grabbing a big makes sense here, and Ngumba's interior scoring, rebounding, and high-field passing would be a boon. Ngumba would likely function in reserve of Mobley long-term, but the two could likely be played together given his success in big actions with Duke, as well as his rebounding potential across limited minutes. Ngumba is not yet a floor spacer, but has shown some potential and the touch indicators are positive. The Mavericks picked this selection up in the Anthony Davis trade and get one more first-round shot at leaving with a long-term starter or rotational piece. Here they get Acuff's running mate in Malik Thomas, helping the two continue to play together at the pro level. This would be more than just a fun story for the duo as well, as Thomas offers a highly intriguing skill set at the next level, albeit one that needs some ironing out. He's 6'5", is shooting 41% from 3 on high volume, has secondary playmaking at 2.5 assists to less than 1 turnover per game, and even has some defensive upside at 1.4 steals per game. Thomas can be slightly erratic and just needs a little polish, but there's no question he's an impactor of the game, and Dallas could be getting a player that can put his fingerprints on several different areas of the game with the 29th pick. The Timberwolves cap off the first round and the mock, grabbing some guard insurance in Vanderbilt's Tyler Tanner. Minnesota was able to add Ayo Dosunmu at the deadline and even re-signed Mike Conley after waiving him. Despite that, their position of need long-term is still a guard that can impact the game on both ends, and Tanner is a fine chance at that here at number 30. He plays much bigger than his 6-foot frame, having dunked the ball 16 times in 27 games, while scoring 18.5 points on a blend of different shots, with 5.2 assists and 2.4 steals. He should should be able to hold his own on both ends at some level, shooting and playmaking alongside Anthony Edwards, and being covered by one of the best rim protectors in the league, if not.